Hello, welcome to the Mad Batter channel. My name's Chris. After Adobe introduced the new masking features in Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw, there have been lots of videos on YouTube explaining the basics. I thought I would do a basic explanation of the masking functions and then a specific explanation on intersecting masks, which seem to have caused some confusion as to what they do. The essential point about the new masking is that in the old masking function you had to use what I would call manual masks, i.e. either paint them on by hand or use static, linear or radial masks. Yes, these could be adjusted using a brush or a colour or luminance range, but a manual mask was never a very efficient way in isolating complex areas. Now though, we have what I would call automatic masks, i.e. generated by the computer rather than manually by hand, so much better at isolating complex areas. And so we now have select subject, select sky and direct access to colour and luminance range masks. In addition, we can amend these masks as often as we want using add, subtract or intersect functions, and again using all the same tools as for the original mask, so it makes for a very flexible masking system. Of course, we have long had intersecting selections in Photoshop, and I should be clear here that what Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw mean by masking is really just a selection, which is a bit different to layer masks in Photoshop. I'll demonstrate the different types of selection methods in Photoshop to illustrate the point about add, subtract and intersect. Here we are in Photoshop with a simple document with a 50% grey background. So I'm going to select the rectangular marquee tool, and you'll see we have 4 settings up here which I'll talk about in a minute. We're on the first one, which is just make the selection button. So I'm going to draw a selection like that, and one way to see your selection in Photoshop is to press the Q key, which takes you into quick mask mode. I have mine set up so it highlights the selected area in a red overlay to match what the standard overlay is in Lightroom masking. So we press the quick mask mode and then to get out, and I'll stroke this selection just so we've got a record of it. Now if I try and draw another selection, you'll see by pressing the Q key that the original selection has gone. That's because we're on this first button, which is make a selection. So I'll just stroke this selection. So again we have a record of it, and then I'll deselect by pressing Ctrl and D. So if we go to the second button here, this is what's called add to selection. So I'll make the original selection, and then I can either click on that or hold the Shift key. And now if I select that and press the Q key, you'll see it has actually added to the selection. So we have the original rectangular selection, and it's added this bit here, which was outside the original selection. So go back to standard mode and deselect. So we'll make the original selection again. And this time we can either go to the third button or just hold the Alt key. And now when I make this selection, holding down the Alt key and then go into quick mask mode, you'll see what it's done is deleted that part of the original selection which was inside the second selection. So deselect again. Then finally we can go to the fourth one, which is intersect selections. So first of all, I'll reselect this first rectangle. And I can either click on that or hold Shift Alt and then select this second rectangle. And now if I press the Q key, you'll see what's left is just the overlapping bit of the first selection and the second selection. And this is what's known as intersecting selections. So hopefully that shows how these three different ways of amending selections work. So here we are in Lightroom Classic, and let's say we wanted to change this reddy pink colour on the walking signs, but only on the top two. How might we do that? Well, the first way is to get colour range and select a range like that. Now you can see, of course, it's selected all this, but also it's selected other bits, and you can see that more clearly if you go to image on black and white. So what we want to do is to refine it to narrow the range so that it's only selecting the bright red bits. There we go. There's a little bit selected here, but we won't worry about that. Now, so we go back to colour overlay. Now what we want to do is to eliminate these. Now we could brush them out, but another way is to use intersecting masks. And whilst you can get to intersect via clicking on those buttons, intersect mask, a quicker way is to hold down the Alt key option on the Mac, and then you get straight to intersect. And then we're going to choose a linear gradient, and then we're going to draw down like that. So now what we're saying is we only want to select that part of the original colour range selection which falls within this linear gradient area. So if we now look at on black and white, you see we haven't got any of the red, so it's only the red above this line. So go back to there, okay, and now we can change the colour. Should we have a nice green? So that's a simple way of using intersecting masks. Now let's go back and delete this mask. One could equally do it by doing the colour range again, going into black, white on black, and refining it. Go back to colour and then subtract using a linear gradient, and then selecting the other half of the photo. So now we've said we want to subtract those bits of the red selection that were in this part of the photo, and again you'll see if you go to white on black we've got the same effect. So again we'd have the same result, but it's not always equivalent. If there are complex interactions of colours all over the picture, then intersect would be better than subtract. It's just here the red areas were discrete and easily separated either by subtracting from the bottom or intersecting from the top. So that's a very simple introduction to intersecting masks. I will do another video on a rather more complex case, and I'll do an edit of another photo to show all the types of masking that there are. I hope this is useful. If you enjoyed it, perhaps you might consider subscribing and giving the video a like. But anyway, thanks for watching.